Okay, we're gonna we're gonna be having an unbelievable conversation this morning, and I feel like this is a little wonky. Hang on just a second. Because as you all probably have already seen, Trump is, of course, back on the ballot in Colorado because it was unconstitutional in the first place. Jenna Griswold should never claim to be a constitutional scholar of any kind. Everybody who lives in Colorado knows that she bends and twists the law to fit what she's doing and the communist agenda that she's following, paid for by George Soros. So we don't listen to her. We don't follow her. She has no idea what the Constitution says. And we certainly at this point are ecstatic and excited to see that the Supreme Court, the law of the land, is being applied once again by people who have some reason and know exactly what's going on here and have seen the political moves being played out by Jenna Griswold in the state of Colorado. She is the now hopefully soon will be a defunct Secretary of State. Unfortunately, she is the basically the director, the president of the Democrat Association of Secretaries of State for the country. So as this psychopath leaves, the rest of the Democratic secretaries of state follow. So all this nonsense you're saying, you've got Illinois now who's moving to remove Trump off the ballot. The Supreme Court has spoken, so I imagine that's going to null and void that whole thing and this whole escapade going across the country. Do you ever stop to wonder why they're so desperate to get Trump off the ballot? We're going to be bringing a guest in just a few moments here from Southside Chicago, Devin Jones. He's the Chicago GOP chair, and he's going to be explaining to us exactly what's going on in Illinois. It's the same thing that's sweeping across the country. So welcome to America's Mom. I am your host, Sharona Bishop. Thank you guys for being here. We're going to be really tight and on time today. You guys are getting this first live here, and then we're going to be again running this at 2 p.m. this afternoon on Lindell TV. So stay with us because you're going to get it first. You need to share this out everywhere. You need to know the truth of what's actually going on. If you listen to mainstream media, then you probably are of the opinion or you think that somehow Trump is not popular, that somehow Nikki Haley winning Washington, D.C., the biggest swamp in the country. It's not even I don't even understand because it's not even it's not even legitimate state. It's not a city, or excuse me, not a state. It's a Britain-owned territory. It's not even part of the United States of America. But she's super excited that she won it. And that's the swampiest swamp place on the planet is Washington, D.C. And Nikki Haley just won it. So what does that tell you about Nikki Haley? She has not pulled any other state where actual American citizens live. She has pulled the state with the highest crime, the lowest education level, the largest Democrat demographics, and the largest losers. Your federal government is all there. And she won that. I don't think I'd be bragging at this point, Nikki. I don't know when you're going to realize that you lost and you just need to kind of bow out now. I don't understand what's going on. I don't know if she thinks Trump is going to think this is a positive characteristic of her, that she has stick-to-itiveness and she just keeps going till the money's all run out. We know she doesn't spend money wisely. She spent $100 million, if you remember, in Iowa ahead of that whole race there. And, for nothing. She beat none of the above. And here she is still puddling in Washington, D.C. and trying to stay on the ballot. So share this out, everybody. Share this out everywhere. We're going to get into the nitty gritty here. My good friend, I cannot wait to hear what he has to say about what's been going on in Illinois, what's going on in Chicago. He's joining us now, Devin Jones, the GOP chair of Chicago. And, many of you are aware or have been paying attention. Mike Lindell is headed to Chicago. He's heading to Illinois. And this is going to be a really big deal for the people there in Illinois. It was amazing timing as we all kind of watched Trump being taken off the ballot. You've got Biden making an emergency trip down there, eating chicken. It's just such a piece of work. I can't speak the same way, Devin, that you're going to be able to speak about what's happening there in Southside Chicago. Thank you. What a privilege and an honor to have you on America's Mom today. Tell us what's happening and tell us about your work. You guys are establishing the first permanent Black Republican office in Southside Chicago.
Yeah, so everything you hear about Chicago is true. We have a horrible migrant crisis. I think at this point we're up to close to 40,000 migrants. And if you put that into I call them foreign nationals. If you put that into perspective, the average ward, we're divided into 50 wards. The average ward has 58,000 people. So we're close to the exact amount of people that would live in an entire community in Chicago that have been flooded into our city. Coupled with that, they're bringing gang-style violence, which is compiled on top of the horrible crime epidemic that we already have in Chicago. this whole system is sucking about $1 billion worth of capital from people's home equity, from their businesses, from the gas taxes and different things like that. And of course, if you look statistically, we have some of the highest taxes in the nation here in Chicago. Then you pile on top the strange ideology that our politicians are pushing, such as HB 4876, which seeks to criminalize parents if they don't allow their kids to receive abortion, so-called gender-affirming care, which is child mutilation, so on and so forth. So we have all of that stuff converging on us: the destruction of the family, the destruction of our businesses, of our homes, and different things like that. A government that is a complete one party totalitarian Soviet style government. And so for the first time, a group of us have gotten together who are Frederick Douglass died in the war Republicans, conservatives, biblical Christians, and we want to offer a landing place to the people of Chicago, because I grew up here. I love my city. We love our communities. And it's just sad how the political elite here have just wrought death, poverty, and destruction. And so on March 23rd, we will be doing I'm calling it a grand commissioning. I'm a United States Navy veteran. You can see the flag in the background. And so in the Navy, we commission ships. Jesus gave us a great commission. And so we're continuing that theme, that we are on a type of war footing, right? We are fighting powers and principalities and things like that. And so we are commissioning this office to be the first landing place on the Southside where people can come in and get information about the Constitution, and how a federal republic is supposed to operate. It's going to be named after Booker T. Washington, who was a Black Republican, and Ida B. Wells, who was a native Chicagoan Second Amendment right person, and she really blew the lid off of what the Democrats in the South were doing with the Klan. And so it's going to be called the Booker T. Washington and Ida B. Wells Renaissance Center. And that's what we aim to create, is a renaissance around conservative ideology, to combat this strange progressive onslaught that we're experiencing in Chicago.
It's really interesting. The immigrant movement has been kind of the biggest wake up call. Don't you think that these massive influx of illegal aliens, as the law actually correctly calls them, people who are coming in here illegally and taking from the resources? You talked about over $1 billion worth of resources that typically go to the people who are real citizens of Chicago, of Illinois, are now going to illegal immigrants who are getting better care, getting $10,000 a month little cards, Visa cards, to be using for whatever it is they
Yes.
need after coming here illegally. Do you think this is kind of the big wake up call for Black America, that, first of all, I know you're all about personal responsibility, and in America, that's the founding. We got to be able to take care of ourselves and be willing to do so. When you look at what's happening with this onslaught of illegals being funded, being cared for, a whole new generation of welfare starting in your city, literally in Chicago. We watched the videos of them of illegal aliens getting off the buses, getting off the trains right there in your town, in your community, taking over all the resources. Are you seeing seriously a major wake up with Black Americans there in Chicago?
I think so, especially with Black men. We are tired of working. And then when you look at how Black people have been portrayed in the media at times, and we would never be allowed to live the way that these people are living. You know what I mean? We would never, we are not allowed the same grace of sucking resources out of people's homes. When we talk about $1 billion, we're not just talking about, it grew on a tree somewhere. People have to pay taxes for this money to exist. And so to think that a country has emptied out its prisons, emptied out the worst of its society to bring it here, and we're already suffering with the terrible criminal element. I think this is waking people up, especially Black men. I think the failure has been maybe on the conservative side, we haven't gotten ahead of this and reached out as much, which is why we're so intentional about opening this office and doing everything we can to provide a political landing place so that people know they do have options. You do not have to suffer this. You don't have to just allow these politicians to run roughshod over you. And we have a crop of politicians or elected representatives, neighbors who want to take the mantle and right this ship.
Let's talk about the schools there and what's been happening. You guys have had an
Yes.
incredible parent movement. I mean, talk about a unifying factor there, where they've been the administrations, the public school system has aggressively been targeting the youth there in Chicago and all over Illinois. Tell us a little bit about what's been happening there, what you've been doing about that.
So as it stands, the Chicago public school system is somewhere between 80 and 90% of the children, especially Black children, are not proficient in reading, writing, math, science. They have a very strange ideology of pushing sex education. We actually have it was Senate Bill 818. It's now a public law that across the state of Illinois they have to teach gender ideology. They're teaching things like I don't want to be too graphic, but they're teaching masturbation. They're teaching different type of sexual positions as young as kindergarten, first and second grade. That is the law here in the state of Illinois. As I mentioned, that HB 4876, which was proposed that would remove children from their homes and actually criminalize parents if they say, no, I'm not going to let you mutilate yourself by changing from a boy to a girl. I'm not going to pump you up with foreign, things in your body, hormones and stuff like that. They're seeking to criminalize parents for that. We have HB 29 that's sitting in the state legislature, which would create the criminal act of parental bullying if you parent your child, if you do things that make them not continue in their bad behavior. So again, and many of these things unfortunately are pushed by the Black Caucus in the name of equity, which is strange because this doesn't do anything to further Black people. It does nothing. We're going to be the most criminalized by it. We're the least likely to be able to fight an overburdensome government as we have seen. And so the idea that they use Black people and weaponize the things that have happened to us in the past in order to strip parents like you away from their children, it is just it's degenerate, it's reprobate. And
Well,
so what
can we
we're
talk
doing,
about that? Can we talk
yeah,
about that for just a second, a little bit more, Devin?
yes,
You're hitting on something really fundamental that people need to understand for just a second. They took the challenges of Black Americans, the LB, who is they? The A is the LGBTQIA trans. And they
yes,
came along and they said, you've suffered, we're suffering, let's be partners, even though the two have nothing to do with one another.
nothing, nothing.
How
You
did this
know,
happen?
I really I don't understand it. Because I know that I studied Martin Luther King. My grandmother and my mother lived through the civil rights movement. My mother's 67, my grandmother is 86. She's fled the Jim Crow South. And nobody ever talked about LGBTQ ideology, mutilating children, transing children. They were literally fighting for their right to vote. You know what I mean? They
Oh,
were
yeah.
fighting for they were being discriminated against solely because of their heritage, because of their bloodline. This it is not the same. My skin color, my heritage, my lineage is not the same as somebody's chosen sexual ideology. If that's what you want to do, you do that over there, but do not compare that to people being lynched in the South. Do not compare that to my grandmother and my grandfather being denied the right to vote, being redlined and stuck into certain neighborhoods. You cannot compare the two, and so and
Absolutely. It's been
yeah,
insane to me to watch this happen and watching Hollywood, a lot of the rappers. I mean, I remember Queen Latifah standing up there performing the ceremony. Didn't isn't that who did that? I was like, what do these have to do with one another? I don't understand.
Nothing. And I would challenge people to continue to say this has nothing. We're not celebrating Black History Month by celebrating Pride. That is just not a thing, and we're definitely to tie it to the utter destruction of an individual. I cannot stress how dangerous this gender ideology is. I can't stress how bad to your health it is to deform your body, to have needless surgeries to change yourself, and to pump yourself full of unnecessary medication. You think of people with high blood pressure and diabetes, those medications already have terrible side effects that you have to weigh when you get on the medication. And now we're saying, you know what? Let's pump our 14-year-olds up with synthetic hormones, and they're related to Black people somehow. Unacceptable.
So I do think there's kind of a targeting. I'd be curious to see what you think about this. I do think there's a targeting of young Black men for the transgender movement. I think, when you see, gosh, Gabriella and what's, I can't remember his name right now. Wade. Yeah,
Zaire, I think his name is
Zaire,
Zaire.
and yeah, being the son of this legendary basketball player that everybody knows and loves and has good feelings to, Gabriella Union being the stepmother that comes along and starts promoting and pushing this trans, acceptance over this young boy who is trying to act like a female. It's been really kind of jarring, and not just
It
jarring in the
is.
fact that we're watching it happen, but that we saw that the father, what is his name again? What's his name again?
Dwayne
Um,
Wade.
Thank you. Yes, yeah, Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, yeah,
That he knows that he's monetizing off of this. He
yes.
knows he's
You so
monetizing.
I think that the issue is that white progressives, they like this type of stuff. They need to associate this again with that Black trauma. But it's not working for Black people. We are not accepting that type of ideology. You walk into any Black barbershop, I'm telling you that we are not accepting this type of ideology, not the men, not the women. Um, and so, unfortunately, white progressives tend not to live in our spaces. They tend not to live next to us. They're the white flighters, right? They're the ones who moved out when we moved in. And so they don't know us. So that's all they need is a symbolic, a Dwayne Wade or some celebrity. And then they pick up that mantle and they put out these Black Lives Matters things. If Black Lives Matters, then you should not be trying to mutilate our children and take them away from us if we decide that we don't want abortions, we don't want to give them things that are destructive to their health. This is unconscionable, and Black people, white people, Hispanic people reject it. When they add Black pain to that, just say, I'm not doing that. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. Ida B. Wells didn't talk about it. Booker T. Washington didn't talk about it. They talked about trades and civil rights. They talked about actual equality, not destroying children.
Devin, I've said it too over and over. The greatest danger to the innocence of our children and the advancement of freedom in America is the liberal white Karen. I'm sorry.
Yes,
Everybody knows it. We all
yes,
see it. The virtue signaling, the Munchausen syndrome, that trying to be savior, this weird savior complex over everybody. It's disgusting and it's disturbing, but it's having real life impact right now. Everyone, we're here with
it
Devin
is.
Jones right now, Chicago GOP chair, talking about, I mean, literally historical moves happening in Illinois right now. You stayed faithful
Yes,
and diligent. It's been an unbelievably brutal battle for you guys. You're just getting out from under Mayor Lightfoot and her cognitive dissonance over the crime that was happening in her own city, everything that's been, just on this downward trajectory for Chicago. But now you're opening the first Black American Republican office in Southside Chicago. So
yes.
again, let's kind of move back into that area again. Do you think everybody's going to be voting for Trump?
You know what? I want to see it. It's almost like too good to be true, right?
Right.
But when I walk out my house, everybody is screaming Trump's name. I can't. I don't know that many people that even are thinking about Biden. And so I am of the belief that we are going to see a real Trump wave. I do hope that trickles down to the down ballot candidates, because of course, Donald Trump can't save the actual state of Illinois. While he can right the ship of the United States, he needs help here in Illinois at the state rep, state senate level, at the county level. So again, I'm big on don't vote for Trump and then vote Democrat down ballot or vote progressive down ballot. If you vote for Trump, you better vote America first all the way up and down that ballot for judge, for prosecutor, so on and so forth. So I think Trump is. I don't know if he'll take Illinois. I'm praying. I'm working as hard as I can. Uh, but if it does, praise the Lord.
Well, let's get in a little bit more of that though,
Yeah.
because the reality is we are sending help. Mike Lindell is coming for an Illinois tour there, and you
Yes.
guys are hosting a very special evening event tomorrow night, Tuesday night, at the at kind of a famous area there for you guys, Bourbon Street, Marionette Park.
Yes.
And Mike Lindell is going to be coming to share a little bit about what's been happening in the election world and what you guys can be doing. Because you're exactly right. You just said we always vote for the national elections, but it's the down ballot elections that are impacting us the most. That's
Yes.
what's causing what you're talking about with these policies that are preventing parents from parenting their children and even criminalizing parents for disciplining their children or rejecting trans ideology. So dive in a little bit. What can we expect to see at Marionette Park tomorrow night?
Sure. I know Terry Newsom has a powerful lineup of people who will be there to undergird what Mike Lindell is speaking about. This is it's in Marionette Park, but right across the street is the historic Mount Greenwood neighborhood, which is where all those progressive politicians and their money traditionally came from. So you're right in the belly of the beast right there. That's the Mayor Daley neighborhood. Well, he's from Bridgeport, but kind of the descendants and the cousins of him all live there. Many of these policies of the what do you call it, the sanctuary city, the Safety Act, which just released criminals out into the street. They were thought about right there in that neighborhood. A lot of our judges come right from that neighborhood. So we are right in the heart, right in the belly of the beast. And we will be proclaiming the America First, the Constitution, biblical citizenship. Of course, I will introduce this new office that we have, the Southside Republicans office, where we will be working to fix where we live. That's our motto. You're going to see a lot of patriots. Hopefully, this is a packed house of people that will be screaming in support of traditional American values.
That's exactly what we want. It's what every citizen wants in this country. Black, white, brown doesn't matter. Our commonality is we want to be free. And this administration is making that impossible. Democrat policies are making that impossible. And the hunt
Yes,
and the war on our children has awakened, I think, everybody to this reality that they don't have good in mind for us. They just don't. And
yes.
I love hearing from you, and thank you for your service to our country. You know firsthand that freedom's not free and what it actually costs us to have it. Do you think that there is a real resurrection of people wanting to be a part, that they're going to stick with it after this election's over? Or do you think we're going to see a bunch of people fall back out again and we have to kind of start from the bottom? Do you think this really is a resurrection of great patriots who are going to stay with us this time and fight for this country?
I think there's enough of us who are laboring and doing the work. That's the key, is that we need people who are willing to be consistent with the work. So like this office is going to be something tangible that people can hold on to keep them undergirded, to keep them encouraged. That's been the biggest thing, is that we do something just for the election and then we walk away and then we have to start it all over again in 2 years or 4 years. We're not starting over again. We're going to keep pushing forward. And just like they push against us, we're going to push back, and we're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until we take the city back over. Because where Chicago goes, where Illinois goes, so goes the rest of the country, as we've seen. We gave you guys Barack Obama, right? Nancy Pelosi used to call the Democrat Party here in Illinois to get some of her tactics and policies and different things like that. Kamala Harris has been here how many times? So Chicago is the Vatican, if you will, of progressivism here in the United States, which we know progressivism is just American communism. And so we need a place right here in the heart to just drive out that demon of overburdened communist government, and that's what we're going to do. So I say we got you guys' back in the rest of the United States, and I just ask that people also have ours through prayers and different things like that. But
Absolutely. You guys
we
are
are
going to need
gonna
support. Yeah,
yes, we are gonna do our very best to continue to push back and to finally we're fighting this war on two fronts and not just us being reactionary to what they do.
absolutely. So, Devin, where can people find you, support you guys, and then I'll put up the link actually for the Lindell tour, so you guys can get tickets for Marionette Park tomorrow night. But where can people go to support specifically the opening of this office and the support that you guys are going to need? As I'm kind of surprised you haven't had any pushback yet from the Democrats. I know they flew Biden in last week, knowing what's coming to this area of Southside Chicago, that we're sending in the greatest Republicans, the greatest, strongest conservatives, American CEOs
Yeah,
who are looking for opportunities to create more financial vibrancy in those areas. Like, great Americans are coming to save, and not to save, but to step in and support what you guys are doing. So how can they help?
sure. So our website is southsidegop.org. And our social media is all Southside GOP. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Southside GOP. And of course, southsidegop.org is where you can the tickets to the grand opening are free. There's a code because of how the website works, but it is free. But there is an opportunity to sponsor us. Click the donate and donate to us. We are 100% community supported. So it's really like my money. It's the other commitment. These are neighbors that we have band together to do this work. We are not supported by the establishment of the party in that regard financially. They give us a wink and a nod, as far as doing this, but we are unapologetic. We are going after our communities, and this is a real grassroots conservative Republican, America First, biblical citizenship based organization. So prayers, of course, money. The Bible says that money answers all things, but the love of money is the root of all evil. So we don't love it, but it does provide a usefulness for us. So southsidegop.org and Southside GOP on all social media. And I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
I thank you for
We're
that.
gonna have you on more and more. I mean, this is what people need to be hearing. They don't need to
Yes.
tune into MSM and all the nonsense and BS that goes on
Yes.
there. You need to hear from the real people who live in these areas, who are fighting for their way of life, fighting for their children. I'm sick of hearing the talking heads. I want to talk to the actual warriors. That's you, Devin Jones. Thank you so much for being with us today on America's Mom. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Gosh. Okay, guys. So I'm going to want everybody to go to lindelltour.com, Lindell tour.com. There are multiple stops that Mike Lindell is going to be making throughout Illinois, but you're not going to want to miss this historic evening tomorrow night, starting in Bolingbrook at 6 p.m. at the beautiful golf course there for an amazing dinner, and then heading over to Marionette Park for an absolutely historical event where all of these grassroots leaders are coming together. I mean, you guys, we're hearing about the Teamsters who are going to be supporting Trump. We're hearing about union heads and leaders who have realized that the Democrats do not have their best interest in mind. If they did they ever, but they're realizing it now. They're late to the party, but they're here. Let's support that. But so excited to see that they want people who are going to put America first, not illegal aliens first, not the transgender ideology, not wokeism, not communism, not progressivism, not the white liberal Karen who screams from the rooftop that her child it needs to be transgendered and everyone else needs to acquiesce and comply with her. We're tired of it. And you just heard it straight from Devin Jones. It's time for us to stand up for our own neighborhoods, for our own communities, and do what is needed in order to secure our communities. We can't look to government for the solution. Look what's happened looking to the government for solutions. They've betrayed us. Our founders were absolutely correct when they said government is but a necessary evil. And anyone who would submit, who would give up their peace and safety for a little bit of security deserves neither. And that's what's happened. People thought the government would take care of them. They would feed them. They would clothe them. They would house them. They would educate them. And now we're slaves to a system that we don't even believe in. that we know isn't working for us, and it's time to break free of that system. Devin Nunes, the Southside GOP, is just absolutely doing phenomenal things. I want to thank Terry Newsom for this great connection and the work that he's doing as one of the main activated fathers in that area that's been drawing attention for us so that we knew what was going on and paving the way for us to have this great interview and be able to connect with so many great patriots on the ground there who love this country and simply want to live free. This is the heart of every human being, is to be free. So thank you guys for being with us today on America's Mom. Looking forward to more great talk tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week, because we're going to keep bringing you the stories. This is a literally historical moment. Mike Lindell joining Southside GOP, Southside Patriots in Chicago. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be epic. And I hope as many of you as possible get yourselves out there. Don't miss this opportunity to be a part of an absolutely historic event. Thank you guys for being with us today on America's Mom. And we'll see you back here very soon.